Okay, here I am at the Cornwall Library with Michael Hemming, who is the grandson of Armin Landeck. I'm sorry. I'm trying to hold the camera and trying to focus on things too. But he's going to give us a little tour of the this exhibit at the Cornwall Library. So what do you have to say?
Okay, well, first I'll just tell you a little history.
Okay.
Armin came here in 1930, at the very beginning of the Depression. He had been trained as an architect. He was a graduate of Columbia Architecture School, and his wife was as well. It was a class of 12 or 13. I think half were women. But I think he always really wanted to be an artist, and it was informed by his architecture. But after school, they had traveled through Europe and seen the sites of all of the, of antiquity, and they came back at the beginning of the Depression and moved into a little house on Great Hill Road. Great Hill Road was a dirt road at that point. There was no electricity in the house. And he got a job teaching art in Washington, Connecticut, and his wife Beatrice was teaching in Litchfield. And they made their life in Cornwall through the 30s. They survived, and then eventually he got a job teaching art at Brearley in New York City, and his life was sort of going back and forth to teaching kids and living up here and making art. But a lot of his art really had to do and was inspired by New York City, and especially New York City of that era, which was an era of demolition and new construction, and his medium was printmaking, and black and white was very suitable to New York City, and he particularly worked in dry point and then later engraving, which is a very crisp, interesting, and also atmospheric way of rendering a print.
Shall we go look at the art?
Let's.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
This wall, the basic exhibit, the bulk of it is these two walls. And this first wall is all New York exteriors, and it's mixed in of pictures from the 1930s, like this very abstract one, or this picture of the raising of New York Medical Center. Now, it's now called Weill Cornell, I guess. To the very latest work he did before he died in the 80s, and everything in between. And as I say, the earlier works were sort of softer, using a dry point technique where you literally scratch into a copper plate and then ink it up, and there's a lot of burr and atmosphere that's held on the plate. Later on in the 40s and 50s, or late 50s, he got involved in a whole engraving thing, which is where you get a much crisper but much deeper and stronger line. So you should show some of the engravings. That's more typical of engraving. Hi, Barbara. Hey, Rick.
Listening to the workshop.
It's for posterity here.
This is the one that was the oldest one?
Well, it's the lithograph, and he didn't make very many lithographs, and he didn't make very many.
Which one is that? That's.
Most of his work wasn't chemical. It was directly working into the plate. And he liked the copper because you could hammer up from the back if you didn't like something. You could polish it, burnish it out. There was just a lot, and he liked to work on things a long time. He didn't whip these things off in a week, Some of these prints took almost a year to make, and it was very painstaking and very slow, but that was the kind of work that he was interested in. You'll also notice that there is very few people in any of these. And people characterize that and they say, oh, he's drawing the loneliness of the city. But I don't think that's it at all. I think he's more interested in you being the inhabitant of the picture. You can enter it. If there's already a person in there, you're starting to see a story developing. But when you're
wonder who that person is,
and you're wondering what they're doing, you're the person. So it's just kind of a blank stage set for you to wander around in. And that's the kind of thing. He's very interested in the pictorial space, the light and the dark, the formal things that made it, interesting.
So that's about it?
I could go on for hours. How much time have you got?
I've got a whole battery full.
Well, we can move on down because
let's go.
This is New York exterior, and then we collected everything else over here. So this is Cornwall. Here you have Barnes. You have the West Cornwall.
That must be his workshop there.
That's his studio. And these are other New York interiors, like the subway. This is This is Rome, this is the Colosseum, but he doesn't just do the Colosseum, he shows it to you through a street light.
Right.
You know, there's always this kind of mystery and strange things coming out of the dark and light. Like even something as mundane as a train station and a water tower, it looks like a scene from a film noir movie, right? He's got that kind of dramatic lighting, and he's really interested in that. And this medium lends itself to that, those atmospheric effects.
Well, that's great. I'll go around and ask.
Talk to the visitors.
What do you think of all the artwork?
Fabulous.
Terrific. Well, we've been seeing his work since we came to Cornwall 45 years ago, but it's nice to see it in context with some of the New York City work, because some of these ones like the Shaker stove and the West Cornwall train station, these are kind of iconic images for people that live in Cornwall. It's nice to see some of the other pieces too.
These things from New York are just amazing.
And this one,
That's a local one too. Where is that?
that's in Cornwall Bridge, I think.
Right, yeah, it is. Well, thank you for the input. That's great. Well, and the crowd's beginning to show up. Maybe I should just end this video now from the Cornwall Library, the Armin Landeck art show. What amazing stuff. That's it. Goodbye.